Imagine a world where the front door to your most valuable digital assets stood wide open, where your company's deepest secrets, your personal financial data, and even the smart home devices you rely on daily were vulnerable to anyone with a curious mind and a little know-how. Sounds like a chilling dystopian sci-fi movie, right? But the hard reality is, without robust access control, this digital nightmare is, well, far closer than you might think. From the vast cloud networks that power global businesses to the tiny chip in your smart coffee maker, everything is connected. And every single one of those connections relies on secure data communications. Think about it. When your smart thermostat adjusts the temperature, that seemingly simple piece of data isn't just floating around. It's communicating securely with a server, maybe in another city, and then potentially back to your phone, all while ensuring no unauthorized eyes are watching or, altering that information. On today's deep dive, we're pulling back the curtain on the absolutely essential security framework that makes this interconnected world function safely: access control. We're going to unpack the latest, most critical insights from Chapter 11 on access control that's in the CompTIA Network Plus Guide to Networks by Jill West, 10th edition, 2025. This isn't just about understanding complex technical jargon, okay? It's about grasping the intricate dance of authentication, authorization, and accounting that fundamentally protects our digital lives and our businesses from the inside out. For you, our dedicated listeners studying data communications, especially those in BCIS 1347 at Tarleton State University's Dr. Sam Pack College of Business, this deep dive is custom-tailored to help you truly grasp the voice and data communications technologies, the underlying concepts, and their real-world applications. We'll cover essential hardware, software, protocols, and the critical managerial issues that will define your careers.
What's truly fascinating here, and what we really want you to walk away with, is how these concepts move way beyond just the IT department. I mean, whether you envision yourself in marketing, finance, supply chain management, or even as an entrepreneur, knowing how to secure information, effectively manage access, and respond strategically to threats isn't just some technical skill. It's actually a fundamental business competency these days. We're going to explore how these principles prepare you not just for exams, right, but to design robust solutions, formulate precise risk assessments, and even prepare for industry-standard network certification exams, all of which positions you for an incredibly bright and secure future.
Okay, before we dive deeper into these vital concepts, could you do us a quick favor? If you're finding value in these deep dives, please hit that like button, subscribe to the show, and maybe share this episode with a classmate or colleague who needs these insider tips. You really don't want to miss insights that could seriously boost your career trajectory. And for additional resources and materials that complement today's discussion, be sure to check the description section of this deep dive. Okay, let's unpack this first part. Before we even begin to talk about firewalls, or encryption keys, or the latest hacking techniques, we really need to talk about policies. Think of them as like the foundational constitution for your network's security. They set the stage for everything else. Without this, you're essentially building a house without blueprints, right?
Exactly, without the blueprints. A thoroughly planned and clearly articulated security policy is your absolute first line of defense. It's not just some document collecting dust on a shelf, it's a living blueprint designed to minimize the risk of break-ins, data loss, and operational disruptions. It's foundational. It outlines your security goals, proactively identifies potential risks, clearly defines levels of authority, who can do what within your organization. It assigns responsibilities to every team member. And it even dictates the step-by-step procedures for how to handle breaches when, let's be honest, they inevitably occur. This directly aligns with our course objectives of managing critical issues in data communications and selecting the most appropriate solutions. Because without this fundamental rulebook, any technical solution, no matter how advanced, is ultimately just a band-aid on a much larger problem, you see.
Okay, so if I'm crafting this digital constitution for a company, what are some of the absolute key goals? What should a solid security policy fundamentally address? What are we actually trying to achieve here?
Well, there are several critical objectives, really, that every robust security policy has to tackle. First, and paramount for any functioning organization, it's about ensuring appropriate user access, giving the right people access to the right resources, while simultaneously preventing unauthorized access to those same resources. It's all about precision. Second, and this is crucial for any business's survival and reputation, it protects sensitive data. This includes everything from proprietary customer records and confidential financial info to your company's hard-won intellectual property. Lose that and you lose trust instantly. Third, it aims to prevent damage to your valuable hardware or software, which, as we know, can incur incredibly high repair or replacement costs and significant downtime. Beyond just prevention, the policy also aims to build an environment that can not only withstand a variety of threats, but also respond effectively when they materialize and recover swiftly, systematically. It also clearly communicates employee responsibilities regarding data integrity and overall system security. Fosters a culture of accountability. And finally, a good policy often includes obtaining signed consent to monitoring forms, which is absolutely crucial for legal compliance, especially in today's increasingly complex regulatory environment.
Okay, defining those goals makes perfect sense. But once you have those aspirations written down, how do you actually translate them into a tangible strategy? How do you put them into action to make sure they're effective?
Right, that's the key step. Post-goal definition. A clear and actionable strategy must be devised. This isn't just wishful thinking, it requires a proactive posture assessment. You need to actively identify vulnerabilities across your entire network landscape. You've got to meticulously know where your weak spots are, understand their potential impact, and then guard them effectively. This hands-on process directly ties into our skill outcome of formulating a risk assessment,
Okay.
which is a vital, frankly, non-negotiable step for any business student moving into a leadership role. Because if you don't know your risks, you can't truly manage your business. It's that simple.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting and maybe quite challenging for many modern businesses. BYOD, bring your own device. I mean, everyone, myself included, loves the convenience of using their own smartphone, their personal laptop, or even their tablet for work, logging into company email, accessing internal documents. But what does that seemingly innocent act mean for network security? Especially when my personal phone probably has 100 apps I downloaded without thinking twice, and suddenly it's a direct portal to my work network.
That's precisely why BYD, or bring your own device, is a massive and often thorny managerial issue in data communications. It really is. And it's not just devices anymore. We see variations like BYOA for appliances, BYOC for cloud services, and BYOT for broader technology. This means organizations now have to manage a whole plethora of personal devices accessing and potentially storing corporate data. Think of it like this. It's kind of like allowing personal cars, each with its own quirks and maintenance history, onto a company's private high-speed road. You need clear rules, right? Stringent insurance requirements, regular maintenance checks for every single vehicle. Otherwise, some rusty old jalopy with bald tires and no brakes could cause a major pileup, jeopardizing everyone. So, a well-defined BYOD policy, including rigorous onboarding and offboarding procedures. That is, when an employee joins and connects their device, and crucially when they leave and disconnect it, is absolutely crucial. The good news is that mobile device management, MDM software, can automate many of these configurations. It ensures devices meet your organization's security standards before they even touch your network. And this directly ties into our knowledge outcome of configuring network connections, services, security, and management in what is, let's face it, a complex mobile environment.
So beyond the bring your own challenges, what other specific policies are absolutely critical to lay out clearly for employees?
Yeah, beyond BYOD, we definitely need to look at acceptable use policies, or AUPs, and non-disclosure agreements, NDAs. An AUP isn't just a list of rules. It clearly defines what users can and cannot do with company resources. And crucially, it explains why these measures are in place to protect the network, the data, and ultimately the business itself. For instance, an AUP typically restricts company resources to job-related tasks only. It states that all network activity can and will be monitored, requires immediate reporting of any suspicious activity, demands devices be locked when not actively in use, explicitly prohibits illegal acts, forbids any circumvention of security measures, and prevents the violation of intellectual property rights. It's pretty comprehensive. Meanwhile, NDAs go a significant step further by legally defining what constitutes confidential and private information within the organization, creating a legally binding commitment to protect it. Complementing this, security policies also require the crucial step of classifying information based on its sensitivity, from publicly available data all the way up to highly confidential company secrets. This ensures that each category receives the appropriate and necessary protection levels. It's a key business strategy.
So, what does this comprehensive approach to policies really mean for our future business leaders, our students listening today? What's the big takeaway?
The practical takeaway for business students here is clear, impactful, and often underestimated. Developing clear, enforceable, and well-communicated security policies isn't just about technical compliance, okay? It fundamentally protects your business from legal liabilities and reputational damage. It manages employee expectations by setting clear boundaries, and it forms the absolute bedrock of a secure and resilient data communications environment. This is directly relevant to the writing outcome of develop a professional network proposal to address a business problem, because any robust solution you propose will need these carefully crafted policies as its foundational framework. You just can't skip it.
Okay, switching gears a bit. We often become so focused on digital threats that we forget the most basic vulnerabilities. If someone can simply walk up to your server rack, your network closet, or even physically steal a hard drive, all the digital locks, firewalls, and encryption in the world won't matter much, will they? We're talking about physical security now.
Precisely. You hit the nail on the head. Physical access restriction to network components is absolutely paramount. Think of it this way. Every single potential point of physical compromise, from secure computer rooms and vast data centers to smaller network closets tucked away in an office, and even individual locked equipment cabinets. Every single one must be tightly controlled. This directly addresses the knowledge outcome of identifying network infrastructure and appropriate cables and connectors by name and function. You simply cannot effectively protect what you don't even know exists physically or where its exact location is. It's about real-world asset protection.
So what kind of tangible physical deterrence are we talking about here? What layers should businesses be thinking about putting in place?
Think of it like designing the ultimate multi-layered security for a high-value vault. It's all about layers. You have the incredibly robust outer wall, then the reinforced vault door, and then individual safety deposit boxes inside, each with its own lock. So first, on your doors, you might have electronic locks, often ingeniously combined with traditional key locks for enhanced security, giving you redundancy. Simpler keypad or cipher locks can actually be surprisingly effective for basic day-to-day access control. More advanced solutions include access badges or smart cards, which can integrate with digital access systems, providing crucial audit trails. For truly high-security areas, biometrics like fingerprints, retina scans, or sophisticated face recognition systems provide unparalleled assurance. And for really sensitive entry points, access control vestibules, often dramatically called man-traps, create a layered entry system. They prevent tailgating and forced entry. Very effective. Even within a physically secured room, locking racks and smart lockers are essential for securing individual hardware components and sensitive removable items, adding yet another critical layer of physical protection.
Those are some very tangible real-world examples. What's the ultimate business impact of investing in such robust physical security? Is it truly worth the cost and effort?
Absolutely. Implementing robust physical security is a non-negotiable, tangible investment in business resilience. It just is. It directly prevents unauthorized physical tampering, which can range from simple sabotage to direct data theft by someone just walking away with a server. It significantly reduces costly downtime due to physical incidents. For instance, preventing a disgruntled ex-employee from simply unplugging a critical server, or a curious, unauthorized individual from installing some rogue device is just as, if not more, important than preventing a complex cyber attack.
Yeah.
This protection directly safeguards your operational continuity and, frankly, your bottom line.
Right, prevention is key.
Prevention is critical, as we've discussed, but detection and rapid response are equally vital. No system is 100% impenetrable. We must always anticipate potential breaches and have mechanisms in place to identify them quickly.
So once all those physical prevention layers are hopefully in place, how do we know if something actually happens? What's our warning system? How do we detect a breach?
Good question. We rely on a suite of physical detection methods. Motion detection sensors can immediately alert security personnel to unexpected movement in restricted areas, even in the middle of the night. Cameras, whether traditional closed-circuit television, CCTV, or modern networked IP cameras, provide invaluable visual surveillance. And crucially, they provide recorded footage for post-incident forensics. That's key. And critically, tamper detection mechanisms on equipment or enclosures can immediately signal if someone has tried to physically interfere with the device, like opening a server cabinet or removing a component. It's really about having eyes and ears everywhere the critical assets are located.
This sounds like a crucial, often overlooked part of any comprehensive risk management strategy. It's easy to forget the physical side.
It truly is. Early detection minimizes damage and recovery costs significantly, massively. Being able to quickly identify and respond to a physical intrusion feeds directly into the formulating a risk assessment and developing an appropriate security strategy to mitigate risk skill outcome. It's about having a full 360-degree picture of your defense, right? Not just focusing on the digital front door while leaving the back window wide open.
Okay, now we get to the core engine of access control, the 3 A's: authentication, authorization, and accounting. Together, they form the absolute backbone of access control. They ensure not just who gets in, but precisely what they can do once they're inside. And critically, that their every action is recorded for posterity. It's kind of like the bouncer, the privileges manager, and the watchful security camera all rolled into one system.
That's a great analogy. This AAA framework is absolutely central to modern network security. It aligns perfectly with the famous CIA triad of confidentiality, integrity, and availability. You've probably heard of that. It's often referred to as IAM, Identity and Access Management, and it plays a major undeniable role in network access control, or NEAS. This is crucial for students to configure network connections, services, security, and management, because it's the systematic way you define and enforce who can touch what, when, and how. The importance of AAA really cannot be overstated. It meticulously limits who has access, it accurately tracks all activity, it keeps bad actors firmly out, and it provides invaluable intelligence on potential privilege abuse. We generally see two main types of AAA application: network access, which is about blocking, granting, or limiting user and device access to network resources, and device administration, which controls access to sessions, network device consoles, and secure shell, or SSH, for network admins configuring critical infrastructure.
Right, so authentication is the very first hurdle. It's all about proving your identity. Are you truly who you say you are? We all do it every single day, often without thinking, when we log into our phones, computers, or online accounts.
Exactly. It's a fundamental data communications technology and the gateway to everything else. It really is. Whether it's local to a single device, like logging into your laptop, or network-based across an entire enterprise, authentication verifies identity by comparing provided credentials against a trusted database. Now, while local authentication offers convenience, say, if your network connection goes down, you can still access your PC entity, it generally provides lower security. Compared to centralized network-wide systems, because each device is sort of managing its own trust, our overarching goal and a key knowledge outcome for our students is to ensure only authenticated and verified entities interact with our systems. This directly supports the ability to configure network connections, services, security, and management effectively. This means we need to consider various methods and restrictions beyond just a simple username and password.
So what are some of those additional layers? What restrictions can help strengthen network security, moving beyond just that basic password?
Yeah, beyond the basic local versus network authentication distinction, where local means each device secures its own resources, like the user accounts on your personal Windows PC. We can layer on several restrictions to significantly strengthen security. For instance, we can impose time of day restrictions, preventing logins after business hours for certain roles, or limiting total time logged on, which is particularly useful for contractors or temporary staff. Source address restrictions ensure access only from approved IP ranges, adding a geographic or internal network layer of security. Unsuccessful logon attempt policies, like account lockouts after a few failed tries, are crucial combatants against brute force attacks. We've all seen those. And increasingly, geographic location restrictions can dynamically block access from high-risk countries or unusual locations, adding another crucial layer of defense based on context. These are all part of a robust authentication strategy.
Passwords. They're the classic gatekeepers. We've been using them forever. But are they truly enough in 2025? My gut tells me no. They just feel so inherently vulnerable these days.
Your gut feeling is absolutely spot on. Choosing a secure password is still one of the easiest and cheapest defenses we have. But it's just no longer bulletproof or sufficient on its own due to the evolving and increasingly sophisticated threats out there. A single strong password simply isn't enough in isolation. It just isn't. We need strong, comprehensive security policies defining minimum password configurations. Things like minimum length, complexity like requiring a mix of uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and symbols, and regular expiration or change cycles. The common tips are still vitally important. Always change default passwords immediately. Avoid using personal info or easily guessed real words. Please, no sticky notes with passwords on them. Update them regularly. Never reuse them across different services. And seriously consider using a reputable password manager. It makes a huge difference. Remember, when it comes to passwords, long is strong, and increasing complexity makes them exponentially harder to crack.
And what are the bad guys actually doing to try and get past our passwords? What are the common attack methods we should know about?
Well, attackers employ several common and increasingly sophisticated methods. The dictionary attack is probably the most common. They try to guess passwords using vast lists of common words, phrases, and even previously breached passwords. More advanced is the rainbow table attack. This uses pre-computed tables of hashed passwords to quickly find matches without having to compute each hash in real time. This can crack many common passwords very, very quickly. And then there's the brute force attack, which is exactly what it sounds like. trying every single possible combination of characters, letters, numbers, symbols, until the correct password is found. This is computationally intensive, yeah, but it can be devastatingly effective against shorter or weaker passwords given enough time and processing power. These methods vividly highlight why a simple password, even a seemingly strong one, is often not enough on its own anymore.
Okay, so passwords aren't stored as plain text. That brings up hashing.
Exactly. This raises an important question. How are passwords stored securely on systems? Because they aren't stored in plain text. And crucially, it's not encryption. It's a process called hashing.
Okay, that's a key distinction I often mix up myself. What's the fundamental difference between hashing and encryption? My brain often lumps them together, but it sounds like there's a critical security-relevant difference here.
That's a very common misconception. But understanding the difference is absolutely fundamental to modern security. It really is. Hashing is a one-way mathematical transformation. It's irreversible. Think of it like taking a complex document, or in this case, a password, and turning it into a unique, fixed-length fingerprint or digital signature. You can easily create the fingerprint from the document, but you cannot reconstruct the original document or password from just that fingerprint. It's a one-way street. You can't go back. In stark contrast, encrypted data can be decrypted back to its original form using a key. For passwords, when you create an account or log in, your entered password gets hashed. That unique fingerprint, the hash, is then compared to the stored hash of your actual password. If they match, you're in. If they don't, even if you typed something really similar, it won't match. Because even a tiny change creates a completely different hash.
That makes perfect sense. So it's not about hiding the password so it can be revealed later, like encryption, but about proving the original without ever revealing it.
Yeah.
That's a profound difference. So what kind of hashing algorithms are used to create these digital fingerprints? Are some better than others?
Exactly. It's all about proof without disclosure. That's the key. The most common algorithms used today are the Secure Hash Algorithm, or SHA versions. SHA-0, SHA-1, SHA-2, and SHA-3. Now, SHA-0 and SHA-1 have known vulnerabilities today and are largely deprecated, so you shouldn't really be using them. But SHA-2 and SHA-3 are still considered strong and are often used together for increased security, providing a much more robust defense. The benefits of hashing extend far beyond just passwords, too. It can significantly harden devices because passwords are only ever stored in their hashed form, making them useless to an attacker even if the database is stolen. It also helps verify file integrity. You can hash entire files or software packages to detect if they've been tampered with by comparing them to an original trusted hash. If the hashes don't match, you know the file has been altered. Very useful.
So even the strongest, most complex passwords can be scooped up easily through sophisticated phishing attacks or other clever social engineering tactics. It's something isn't enough on its own. What's the modern go-to solution? What really secures our accounts today?
That's where multi-factor authentication, or MFA, steps in as the absolute game changer. It really is. It was often called two-factor authentication, or 2FA, but now we generally use multi-factor because it implies using at least two different categories of authentication factors and often more to verify your identity. MFA has become the linchpin of business resilience and an absolutely critical concept in cybersecurity for business students, because simple passwords, even strong ones, are simply not enough against modern threats like phishing, social engineering, and the constant barrage of data breaches. MFA provides a crucial, often impenetrable, second layer of defense, making it dramatically harder for unauthorized users to gain access even if they somehow manage to compromise your password.
That's a powerful statement. So what are these different categories of authentication factors that MFA relies upon? How does it work?
We typically break them down into 5 main categories that provide distinct layers of proof. First, something you know, which is your traditional password, pins, or preset security questions, the classic stuff. Second, and critically, something you have. This could be a physical hardware token. Think of those little SecureID fobs that generate a rotating, time-sensitive code. Or, increasingly, your smartphone running a dedicated authenticator app. Apps like Microsoft Authenticator, Google Authenticator, 2FAS, or Aegis Authenticator generate rotating time-based codes even when your phone is offline, making them incredibly secure and resilient. This category also includes smart cards or USB keys like FIDO2 tokens, which provide strong cryptographic backing. The third category is something you are, which encompasses biometrics. These are unique biological traits like fingerprints, retina scans, or sophisticated facial recognition, such as Apple's Face ID or Windows. Hello. Interestingly, the rise of deepfake risks where AI can generate incredibly realistic fake identities is paradoxically driving the rapid adoption of biometric identity verification, especially in financial services, where robust fraud prevention is paramount. The fourth is Somewhere You Are, which leverages geographic location data. For instance, only allowing access from a specific country, a known office building, or a registered device. And finally, Something You Do, which could include unique behavioral patterns like your typing rhythm, your gait, distinct voice patterns, or even your unique signature. MFA requires a combination from at least two of these different categories, not just two passwords, significantly enhancing security.
So, how are these different factors actually implemented in the real world? What are the common ways we encounter MFA day to day?
There are several common implementation methods we see all the time. SMS text message codes are widely used due to their convenience, sure, but it's crucial to understand they are increasingly considered the least secure option. Due to risks like SIM swapping or interception, you hear about that a lot now. In fact, some experts, like Waltra, explicitly recommend replacing SMS OTP, one-time passwords, with more secure mobile apps. Authenticator apps, as we mentioned, are a far more secure alternative. They generate rotating codes even when offline, not relying on cellular networks. Big plus. Dedicated hardware tokens provide strong security with a physical, dedicated device. Very secure. And then there are passkeys, a newer technology that is rapidly gaining momentum. Huge potential here. Passkeys aim to replace passwords and MFA codes entirely by using cryptographic key pairs tied to your devices. They offer banking-grade authentication, are highly resistant to phishing, and are gaining significant traction, particularly in the banking industry. They help meet stringent regulatory compliance while dramatically improving user experience. Win-win.
Many of us use these services every day. Can you give us some quick real-world examples of how major companies are setting up MFA, just so our listeners can see it in action?
Certainly, yeah. You'll recognize many of these big names. Amazon's two-step verification is important due to linked payment methods, allows you to skip codes on trusted devices, and now proudly supports passkeys. Apple's two-factor authentication is absolutely critical for iCloud, all your purchases, subscriptions. It integrates deeply with iOS and macOS. It offers app-specific passwords, physical security keys, and passkeys. A key point here is that once active for a few weeks, it often can't be turned off, highlighting its foundational role in their ecosystem. Facebook and Instagram Meta offer two-factor authentication via authenticator apps, text messages, or physical security keys, and provide recovery codes. Google's two-step verification protects a whole life of services, from credit cards to smart homes, and uses Google Prompt on smartphones or authenticator apps, also supporting passkeys. Microsoft offers two-step verification for its entire suite of services, even allowing passwordless access via Microsoft Authenticator or Windows Felicity, and provides recovery codes. Very convenient. LinkedIn, the business social network, offers SMS or authenticator app options now with passkey support too. Even X, formerly Twitter, provides two-factor authentication via SMS, authenticator app, or physical security keys with passkeys available for mobile. And Yahoo offers account key or two-step verification through push notifications via Yahoo apps, authenticator apps, face fingerprint PN sign-in, which is effectively a passkey, and app passwords. The sheer number of major services adopting MFA, as highlighted by resources like the 2FA directory, really underscores its widespread importance and the industry's clear shift towards it.
Okay, looking at
Now, if we connect this to an even bigger picture, even MFA as we know it today is constantly evolving. The future rise of quantum computing means we need to think proactively about post-quantum authentication.
post-quantum. That sounds like something out of a science fiction novel. What does that even mean for our authentication methods? And why should businesses be concerned now if quantum computers aren't exactly mainstream yet?
It sounds futuristic, I know, but it means preparing today for a future where quantum computers could potentially break many of today's cryptographic standards. Standards like RSA and ECC, rendering many of our current security methods basically obsolete. The time to transition is now because upgrading cryptography isn't a simple flip of a switch. It's a long, complex, and costly process that takes years. You can't wait. For instance, PKI-based authentication, which underpins things like TLS, smart cards, and VPNs, has a high impact risk because it relies heavily on these vulnerable algorithms. Mobile push authentication and even RFID tokens also need to be reevaluated for their quantum resilience. The solution involves migrating to a hybrid PKI, which combines current methods with future-proof post-quantum schemes like MLDSA and MLChem, and ensuring symmetric keys are at least 256 bits long for sufficient strength. This proactive approach highlights the future impact and direction of these technologies from our course description. It's really about staying ahead of emerging, potentially existential threats to maintain long-term security and business continuity.
So this isn't just some technical detail for IT professionals. It sounds like a strategic, long-term business imperative to protect against future vulnerabilities.
Exactly. That's the perfect way to put it. The practical takeaway for business students is that MFA, in its current and evolving forms, is surprisingly easy to set up for both personal and organizational accounts and provides an enormous leap in security. Truly massive. It makes your organization dramatically more resilient against identity theft, sophisticated phishing, and data breaches. While it might mean an extra login step, yeah, being truly secure isn't always effortless, but that extra minute or two during login is absolutely worth preventing the catastrophic theft of identity, sensitive data, or financial assets. No question. Moreover, understanding MFA is a core concept that will absolutely prepare you for industry-standard network certification exams, which is a key value outcome of our curriculum and, frankly, a vital skill in the modern workforce.
Okay, so you've been authenticated, you're in the system, you've proven who you are. But that doesn't mean you can just do anything you want, right? Access to sensitive data or critical systems still needs to be tightly controlled. This is where authorization comes in, I assume.
Precisely. Authorization is all about privileges, what you're allowed to do. It dictates what an authenticated user or device is allowed to do. It's fundamentally different from authentication, which only checks who you are. Think of it this way. A member of an IT team might be authenticated as an employee, right? But they might only be authorized to change individual VPN passwords for specific users. The network administrator, however, would have broader authorization to alter company-wide VPN settings or reconfigure a critical server. This granular control is absolutely essential for both security and operational efficiency. Without it, even an authorized user could accidentally or sometimes maliciously wreak havoc.
Okay, so that granularity makes sense, but how do businesses actually manage that? Giving every single user a unique set of individual permissions sounds like an administrative nightmare, especially in a large organization.
That's an excellent point, and it highlights why the most popular and scalable method for authorization is role-based access control, or RBAC. Instead of assigning permissions to individual users, which, as you rightly point out, becomes an administrative nightmare in larger organizations, users are assigned to specific roles like marketing manager, junior accountant, HR generalist, or senior developer. These roles then have predefined specific permissions that align with their job functions. This simplifies management greatly, making it easier to onboard, offboard, and manage personnel changes. Much cleaner. A related and crucial concept here is role separation, where a user is a member of only one group or role to perform any specific task. This minimizes overlapping permissions and significantly reduces potential conflicts of interest or opportunities for fraud. Now, beyond RBAC, we also have stricter methods like mandatory access control, or MA. You typically find this in highly secure government or military systems. Here, the system enforces access based on classification labels assigned to both users and resources. Access is only granted if these labels match perfectly. Very rigid, very secure. On the other end of the spectrum is discretionary access control, or DAC, which is less restrictive and far more common in everyday operating systems. With DSC, the owner of a resource, say a specific file or folder, can grant or deny access to others, much like how you might set file permissions on your personal computer, much more user-driven.
What's the key takeaway for our business students here, especially regarding that principle of least privilege I hear about?
The practical takeaway for business students is crystal clear. Implementing RBAC effectively ensures the principle of least privilege, meaning users, applications, and even devices only get the absolute minimum access they need to perform their legitimate job functions. Nothing more. This significantly reduces the attack surface and minimizes the potential damage if an account is compromised or an insider threat emerges. It's a direct, proactive application of the skill outcome of formulating a risk assessment and developing an appropriate security strategy. Because it's a fundamental step to limit risk exposure within your organization, protecting both data and operations. It's basic hygiene, really.
Okay, so we know who you are, authentication,
Yeah.
and what you're allowed to do. Authorization, that makes sense. Now, for the final A, accounting, what's this all about? Is it just keeping track of who logs in, or is there more to it than that?
Oh, accounting is much, much more than just tracking logins. Much more. It's the meticulous auditing and logging of all user and system activity while they're logged in and interacting with resources. This tracks intricate details like precise login times, the amount of data sent and received, the IP address they came from, the Uniform Resource Identifier or URI they used, and the specific services and applications they accessed. Very granular. This comprehensive granular logging is absolutely essential for regulatory compliance, internal auditing, troubleshooting, and even billing in some specialized cases. Companies like Fortinet stress its importance in providing invaluable intelligence about potential privilege abuse or suspicious activity, helping to detect and deter insider threats.
How do businesses ensure this accounting is done properly and actually helps prevent issues like fraud or misuse? What are the mechanisms?
Well, a key concept in accounting, and frankly in good business practice overall, is separation of duties, or SOD. This is a control mechanism that prevents a single individual from performing all steps in a task that could create a conflict of interest or an opportunity for fraud. For example, the person who approves expenses should not also be the person processing payments. Simple check and balance. This creates vital checks and balances within the system, making it much harder for a single bad actor to cause significant harm. For practical insights at a more technical level, tools like the Windows Event Viewer are invaluable. It's a native tool that allows you to view detailed Windows logs, which can reveal interesting or suspicious events, aiding significantly in troubleshooting. This directly contributes to the skill outcome of applying appropriate network troubleshooting techniques. However, for large, complex networks, you really need something far more sophisticated.
Like what? What's the big picture tool for enterprise-level accounting and security monitoring? What do the big players use?
That would be Security Information and Event Management, or SIEM systems. These are powerful, centralized platforms that collect, aggregate, and analyze vast amounts of log and event data from various security devices across the entire network. Things like intrusion detection systems, IDS, intrusion prevention systems, IPS, firewalls, proxy servers, and even individual endpoints, all feeding into one place. SIEMs correlate this event data from disparate sources and can trigger automated alerts or responses based on configured rules, identifying patterns that indicate a potential breach or policy violation much faster than a human could. Leading examples include Alien Vault AWESOM, IBM Security PUDAR, SolarWinds Security Event Manager, and Splunk Enterprise Security. You hear these names a lot. The effectiveness of a SIEM depends on factors like the amount of storage available for the immense volume of data generated, and the number of events it can process per second. Network administrators meticulously fine-tune these rules for specific network needs, essentially teaching the system what anomalies to look for and how to react dynamically.
So, for business students, why is this level of detailed accounting and monitoring so absolutely crucial for an organization's health and survival?
Robust accounting, powered by tools like SIEM, provides invaluable intelligence for security operations, period. It ensures continuous compliance with strict regulatory frameworks like GDPR, IPPay, and PCI DSS, which are critical in many industries. It's also absolutely critical for forensic analysis after an incident, helping you meticulously piece together what happened, when, and by whom. Essential for learning and prevention. This directly supports the skill outcome of configuring efficient network management and helps in identifying architecture of networks to facilitate troubleshooting techniques, as these logs reveal precisely how your network is being used or potentially misused, allowing for swift corrective action and continuous improvement. It's about visibility.
Okay, of the three AAA processes, authentication often feels the most complex. It involves so many different underlying technologies and protocols. Let's start with the big one that everyone loves, mostly because of its sheer convenience. Single sign-on, or SSO. Who doesn't love just logging in once and accessing everything? But is it maybe too good to be true? What are the hidden risks involved?
You've hit on its core appeal, and yeah, its core challenge right there. SSO offers incredible convenience, allowing a client to sign on once to access multiple systems or resources without repeatedly re-entering credentials. We all appreciate that. This significantly improves user experience, reduces password fatigue, and dramatically cuts down on support calls related to forgotten passwords, which aligns perfectly with crucial business efficiency goals, saves time and money. However, the biggest disadvantage and a critical managerial issue in data communications is the centralized risk it introduces. Once that single authentication obstacle is cleared, if that SSO account is compromised, an attacker gains broad, unfettered access to numerous, potentially critical resources. It's like putting all your digital eggs in one very tempting basket. This trade-off between convenience and security requires extremely careful consideration, robust implementation, and continuous monitoring. It's not set and forget.
So you need something central to manage all those identities for SSO.
Exactly. To make SSO and other network-wide authentication and authorization truly functional, you need a central directory. These are essentially the digital phone books or databases that store all the user account information, passwords, hashed of course, group memberships, basically making those SSO capabilities and granular authorizations possible in the first place.
So what are the common directory services that power this vast system of identities and permissions? What are the big names we should know?
The two most common and influential are probably Windows Active Directory, or AD. It's widely used in enterprise environments globally, and it's often configured with powerful protocols like Kerberos, though it can also use LDAP, very dominant. Then there's OpenLDAP, which is more Linux-focused but offers broad cross-platform support. It's often chosen for its lower cost and open source nature, though it might require more technical knowledge to implement and manage effectively compared to AD. Both are foundational technologies in this space.
You mentioned LDAP there.
Yes, speaking of LDAP, let's talk about the Lightweight Directory Access Protocol, or LDP, and its secure counterpart, LDAPS. LDP is a standard open protocol for accessing and maintaining distributed directory information services. It's essentially a structured way for different systems to talk to the directory server, querying for user details or authentication data. However, a significant inherent weakness of standard LDAP is that it transmits user credentials, including passwords, in plain text. Big problem. That makes it highly vulnerable to eavesdropping and interception attacks. The essential solution, and really the only way you should use it today, is LDAP, which is LDP over SSL/TLS. This encrypts that entire transmission channel, securing your credentials and ensuring the integrity of the communication. It's pretty much non-negotiable for modern systems.
Okay. Then there's Kerberos. It sounds like something straight out of Greek mythology. A multi-headed dog guarding the underworld. How does this protocol guard our network and keep our data safe in a more modern context? What's the connection?
It's an ancient concept applied to modern security, indeed. It's actually a very clever name. Kerberos is a powerful cross-platform authentication protocol that uses sophisticated key encryption to verify client identity. And then it securely exchanges information after a client logs on. It's fundamentally a private key encryption service that ensures mutual authentication between the client and the server. What this means is that both parties know they're talking to a legitimate entity, which is absolutely crucial for preventing impersonation attacks and ensuring trust on the network. Without mutual authentication, a client could unknowingly connect to a fake server, or a server could accept credentials from a fake client. Bad news either way.
And how does this trusty ticket master system actually work behind the scenes? How does it achieve that mutual authentication and secure communication without sending passwords everywhere?
In Kerberos, we have a few key terms to understand. A principal is simply a client or a service requesting access. The KDC, or Key Distribution Center, is the central authority, sort of the god of the Kerberos realm. It holds the keys. And a ticket is a temporary, cryptographically secured credential issued by the KDC for accessing specific services. Think of it like a movie ticket for a specific showtime. The KDC itself runs two main services: the Authentication Service, AS, which verifies the user's initial identity, and the Ticket Granting Service, TGS. Users and services register their unique symmetric encryption keys with the AS ahead of time. When a user wants to access a service, the process involves a sophisticated six-step exchange with the KDC. First, the user proves their identity to the AS, which then issues a ticket granting ticket, TGT. Basically proof they are who they say they are. The user then presents this TGT to the TGS, which in turn issues a specific service ticket for the exact service the user wants to access. This complex process ensures secure access without transmitting passwords directly across the network multiple times, making it incredibly robust and highly resistant to eavesdropping and replay attacks. It's truly a marvel of cryptographic engineering when you dig into it.
So we have these central systems for AAA. Are there different flavors or specific protocols that handle these functions, especially for different use cases like general user access versus, say, network device configuration? It sounds like you wouldn't necessarily use the same system to let an employee check their email as you would to reconfigure a critical router.
You're absolutely right to draw that distinction. Different tools definitely excel at different jobs. Radius, or Remote Authentication Dial-In User Service, is arguably the most popular and widely deployed AAA service out there. It's often used for network access, like when you connect to a VPN or a corporate Wi-Fi network. It authenticates a user or device attempting to join the network. Radius cleverly treats authentication and authorization as a single, combined process for simplicity in user access scenarios. Accounting is handled as a separate function. Critically, Radius encrypts all AAA data packets during transmission, providing an essential layer of security. It operates in a client-server model. A user sends a request to a network access server, next to RES, which then forwards it to the Radius server, and the server responds by accepting, rejecting, or challenging the request. It can even work nicely with directories like Active Directory. Then there's TACAS plus S, or Terminal Access Controller Access Control System Plus. This was developed by Cisco and is often the preferred choice for device administration. Think configuring complex routers, switches, or firewalls, the real infrastructure gear. Unlike Radius, TACACS Plus relies on TCP, a connection-oriented protocol, making it generally more reliable than EDP-based Radius for critical administrative tasks where guaranteed delivery is paramount. It also encrypts all transmitted AAA information, not just the password like Radius typically does, offers a higher level of confidentiality for administrative commands. And a key differentiator is that TACACS Plus explicitly separates authentication and authorization. This provides much more granular control for network administrators over precisely what commands can be executed after they've been authenticated, which is invaluable for managing high-privilege operations on critical infrastructure. You want that fine-grained control.
So, for our business students, why is understanding the nuances between protocols like Radius and TACACS Plus so important? Why should they care beyond just technical curiosity?
Understanding these distinct protocols is really vital for configuring network connections, services, security, and management effectively. It's practical knowledge. The strategic choice between Radius and TACACS Plus often depends on your specific business needs and your overall security posture. Radius is generally excellent for scalable user access authentication, handles lots of users well, while TACACS Plus is often preferred for more granular secure network device administration. More control for admins. This directly relates to the course outcome of selecting appropriate wired, wireless, and optical fiber networking components for a given set of requirements, and configuring network connections, services, security, and management as it fundamentally impacts your architectural decisions and your ability to secure the very backbone of your organization's communications.
Okay, with everything moving to the cloud and so many third-party services and web applications we use daily, do companies still manage all their own identity systems internally? Or is there a trend towards maybe outsourcing that trust?
Here's where it gets really interesting for modern distributed enterprises, especially those heavily invested in cloud computing. You see this everywhere now. Cloud, web, and mobile applications increasingly rely on third-party identity providers, or IDPs, for authentication. Think of it as intelligently outsourcing the "who are you" question to a specialist provider. While your own Active Directory is technically an IDP, the term usually describes off-site federated services, like using your Google or Microsoft account to log into other websites or SaaS applications. You probably do this all the time. This allows specialized providers to handle the complex task of identity verification securely and efficiently.
So how do all these different services and third-party IDPs talk to each other securely? How do they trust each other? Is there a common language, like a universal translator they use to establish that trust relationship?
Yes, absolutely. That common language is SAML, or Security Assertion Markup Language. SAML is a common set of rules, an XML-based open standard for establishing a secure trust relationship between a website or application, known as the service provider, SP, and an identity provider, IDP. The process is quite elegant and highly efficient, actually. The user first authenticates once with the IDP using their established credentials, like their Google login. The IDP then sends a secure, cryptographically signed authentication token called a SAML assertion to the SP, the website they want to access. The SP, having an established trust relationship with that specific IDP, then trusts this assertion and grants access to the user, all without needing the user's actual password directly. This keeps the user's sensitive password information solely with the IDP, much safer.
That sounds incredibly beneficial for the user. Definitely simplifies their login experience. No more remembering dozens of passwords. But what are the tangible advantages for the actual service providers, the websites or apps that are using these IDPs and SAML? What's in it for them?
Oh, for service providers, the advantages are significant and impactful, really significant. Firstly, you get dramatically improved user experience because users have less password fatigue from remembering multiple credentials. Happier users. This, in turn, significantly reduces user support calls since forgot password requests are primarily handled by the IDP. That offloads a major headache and cost center for the SP. The IDP also handles secure credential storage, offloading that immense responsibility and its associated security risks from the SP. Less liability. And often, these specialized third-party IDPs offer more sophisticated authentication mechanisms, including advanced MFA capabilities, which means the SP automatically inherits that enhanced security posture without having to build and maintain it themselves. It's really a win-win for both efficiency and security in many cases.
What's the practical impact for our future business professionals, our students listening today, regarding leveraging these third-party identity solutions? What should they take away?
The practical takeaway here is profound, really. Leveraging third-party IDPs and adhering to standards like SAML can fundamentally streamline operations, dramatically enhance security, and significantly scale access management for modern distributed networks and applications. This ties directly into the course's focus on design integration, selection, and implementation of communication solutions, because choosing the right identity management strategy, whether it's in-house or federated using IDPs, is absolutely central to building effective, secure, and user-friendly communication systems in today's interconnected cloud-first world. It's a key strategic decision for any modern business.
Okay, for decades, the dominant model for network security was kind of like a medieval castle, right? Strong, thick walls, drawbridges, deep moats protecting everything precious inside. You build your defenses around a clear perimeter. But what happens when the enemy is already inside? Or perhaps more accurately today, there's no clear, identifiable perimeter anymore because everyone's working from home, accessing cloud services, or using a mix of personal and corporate devices. That whole castle analogy just breaks down completely, doesn't it?
You've perfectly articulated the core dilemma of modern cybersecurity. It's a huge shift. This raises the critical question. How do you secure a network where remote users, diverse BYOD devices, and cloud-based assets mean there's no longer a single, easily identified perimeter? You just can't assume trust based on location anymore. Traditional strategies like relying solely on firewalls at the network edge are simply inadequate and fundamentally flawed in this new reality. They just don't cut it. This, my friend, is the paradigm shift to zero-trust security, where we operate on the fundamental assumption that an attacker is already present in the environment or could be at any moment. Assume breach. It's a core concept for understanding the current and future impact and direction of these technologies, because it fundamentally changes how we think about design and implement security across the board.
So if we can no longer trust our perimeter, what exactly is zero trust, or ZT? And what does a zero trust architecture, or ZTA, actually entail? What does it look like in practice?
Right. Zero Trust, or ZT, is not a product you can just buy off the shelf. It's an evolving set of cybersecurity paradigms. It fundamentally moves defenses from static, network-based perimeters to focus directly on users, assets, and resources themselves. The core mantra is never trust, always verify. That's the heart of it. Trust is never granted implicitly based on location or anything else. Instead, it is continually evaluated with every single access request. Regardless of whether that request originates from inside or outside the traditional network boundary, doesn't matter where it comes from, Zero Trust Architecture, or ZTA, is an enterprise cybersecurity plan specifically built on these ZT principles. It's meticulously designed to prevent data breaches and severely limit internal lateral movement by attackers if they do get in. The key is that it focuses on protecting the resources themselves, your critical assets, applications, services, workflows, network accounts, rather than relying on the increasingly irrelevant network segment they happen to be in. Because network location is no longer considered the primary component of a resource's security posture. Every access request is treated as if it comes from an untrusted network. Every single time.
That sounds like a complete, almost revolutionary rethinking of security. It flips the old model on its head. What are the core tenets, the guiding principles that form the bedrock of this zero trust design? What are the rules?
The NIST Special Publication 800-207, which is really a foundational document in this space, outlines 7 core tenets for zero trust design. These are basically the rules of this new security game. Let's look at the most impactful ones. First, and critically, all data sources and computing services are considered resources. Everything is a resource. This means everything from a database server to a simple IoT device. No exceptions. Second, all communication is secured regardless of network location. Trust is never implied by location, even if a device is physically inside your corporate network. Every connection must be authenticated and encrypted. Full stop. Third, access to individual enterprise resources is granted on a possession least privilege basis. Trust in the requester is evaluated before each access attempt, and authentication authorization to one resource won't automatically grant access to another. It's granular, just-in-time access. Moving on, the fourth tenet is that access is determined by dynamic policy. This isn't static rules set in stone. It includes checking the client's identity, the specific application or service they're trying to use. The requesting asset's observable security state. Is it patched? Does it have malware detected? And even behavioral and environmental attributes like time of day, geographic location, or unusual activity patterns. It's context aware. Fifth, the enterprise rigorously monitors and measures the integrity and security posture of all owned and associated assets continuously. No asset is inherently trusted. Everything is under constant scrutiny. Sixth, all resource authentication and authorization are dynamic and strictly enforced not just before access, but continuously during access. This includes mandatory multi-factor authentication and ongoing reevaluation throughout user transactions. And finally, the seventh tenet. The enterprise continually collects as much information as possible about the current state of assets, network infrastructure, and communications, to continuously improve its security posture using that data to refine policies and detect anomalies faster. It's a continuous feedback loop.
Wow, that's a lot of moving parts and a massive amount of data to process in real time. What are the core logical components that make up a zero-trust architecture? It sounds like it requires a central brain for all that dynamic decision-making.
It absolutely does, yeah. It's much like a complex, adaptive organism with different parts working together. Understanding these logical components is crucial for students to identify architecture of networks, to facilitate troubleshooting techniques, and really comprehend how a ZTA functions. At the heart of it, we have the policy engine, PE. This is essentially the brain of the entire operation. It makes the ultimate decision to grant, deny, or revoke access based on the enterprise's overarching policy and real-time input from numerous external data sources like threat intelligence feeds. Closely paired with it is the policy administrator, PA. The PA acts as the executor. It takes the PE's decision and establishes or shuts down the communication path between a subject, the user or device, and a resource. It does this by giving commands to the policy enforcement points, PPs. The PPs are the bodyguards, or the gateways, if you like. They are the actual systems responsible for enabling, monitoring, and terminating connections between a subject and an enterprise resource. They are strategically located right at the immediate access points of the resources themselves, acting as the ultimate gatekeepers.
So the policy engine, the brain, needs a constant stream of information to make these incredibly dynamic real-time decisions. What are its critical data sources? Where does it get all this intelligence from?
Right. The policy engine truly relies on a rich, diverse ecosystem of data sources to make its informed, real-time decisions. It's constantly learning. These include a continuous diagnostics and mitigation CDM system, which constantly gathers asset state information like OS patches, software integrity, vulnerability status. Is the device healthy? An industry compliance system feeds in regulatory requirements such as FISMA, CHIPA, PCI, DSS, or GDPR, ensuring policies align with legal obligations. Crucial threat intelligence feeds provide external and internal data on new attacks, vulnerabilities, and malware in real time. What's happening out there right now? Network and system activity logs offer continuous feedback on the security, posture, and active connections. What's happening on our network? Data access policies define the basic access privileges for accounts and applications, the baseline rules. And Enterprise Public Key Infrastructure, PKI, manages digital certificates for resources and subjects, underpinning trust and identity verification. An identity ID management system creates, stores, and manages user accounts and identity records, often an LDAP server or Active Directory. Who is this user? Finally, a security information and event management SIEM system collects, correlates, and analyzes all this security-centric information, providing a comprehensive view for analysis and policy refinement, allowing the PE to make highly dynamic, risk-based access decisions. It's a really sophisticated, data-driven decision-making process happening constantly.
It definitely sounds like there's no single off-the-shelf product called Zero Trust. It's more of a philosophy or strategy. Are there different architectural variations or approaches businesses can take to implement ZTA based on their needs?
You're absolutely right. It's a strategic framework, not a single product you just install. There are variations in how a ZTA can be approached, tailored to an organization's specific needs and existing infrastructure. Makes sense, right? One approach is enhanced identity governance. Here, the identity of the actors, users, devices, services is the primary component driving policy decisions. This works particularly well for open networks or cloud-based software as a service, say applications, where controlling the end device might be difficult or impossible. Another is microsegmentation. This involves placing individual resources or small groups of resources on unique, isolated network segments. Each segment is protected by dedicated gateways like intelligent switches or next-generation firewalls, NGFWs, or even host-based software agents acting as PP, creates tiny protected enclaves. A third approach utilizes network infrastructure and software-defined perimeters, SDP. This often employs overlay networks, typically at layer 7, the application layer, where the policy administrator acts as a central network controller orchestrating access. Each approach implements the core tenets of zero trust, but prioritizes different components or policy drivers to achieve the same fundamental security goals. We also see different deployed models of this abstract architecture in practice. Real-world implementations. The device agent gateway model splits the PEP functionality between a client-side agent running on the user's device and a resource-side gateway. This is ideal for organizations with robust device management programs for their enterprise-issued laptops, where they control the endpoint. The enclave-based deployment model places the gateway at the boundary of a collection of resources, forming an enclave. This is useful for protecting legacy applications that can't be easily modified or for securing cloud microservices. The resource portal-based deployment uses a single PP acting as a gateway portal. Users connect through this portal to access resources. This offers flexibility for BIOD or interorganizational collaboration where installing client agents isn't feasible, though it provides less continuous device visibility between sessions. And finally, device application sandboxing involves running vetted applications in compartmentalized, isolated environments like virtual machines, VMs, or containers on the user's device. This protects the applications from a potentially compromised host device, adding another crucial layer of isolation.
You mentioned the policy engine's trust algorithm earlier, the brain's logic. That sounds like the absolute secret sauce, the core intelligence. How does it actually work? What makes it smart enough to make these incredibly dynamic, real-time decisions about who gets access?
The policy engine's trust algorithm is indeed its primary thought process. It's where the magic happens. It takes all those diverse data inputs we discussed and dynamically decides whether to grant or deny access. This is absolutely central to design, integration, selection, and implementation of communication solutions for businesses, as it directly impacts your risk posture and user experience. The inputs are extensive. The access request itself, data from the subject database and their historical behavior patterns, the asset database and its observable security state, the resource's specific policy requirements, and real-time threat intelligence. It digests all of that. The algorithm then evaluates all of these factors to make a nuanced judgment. There are variations in how these algorithms operate too. They can be criteria-based, where a predefined set of attributes must be met for access, like a simple binary pass-fail decision checklist approach. Or they can be score-based, which computes a confidence level based on weighted values from all data sources. If the calculated score exceeds a predefined threshold, access is granted. More nuanced. A more sophisticated and powerful approach distinguishes between singular and contextual algorithms. A singular TA treats each request individually, in isolation. It's fast, but it can miss subtle evolving attacks or patterns. A contextual TA, however, is far more intelligent and effective against modern threats. It considers the subject's history, their typical behavioral patterns, and the broader environmental context of the request. This is where it gets really powerful. For instance, if an HR employee normally accesses maybe 20-30 records a day, but suddenly attempts to access 100+ records in a very short period, or if an accountant who always works 9 to 5 logs in at midnight from an unusual geographical location, a contextual TA would flag this as anomalous behavior. A singular TA might just let it through if the credentials are valid. So the contextual approach significantly reduces risk from insider threats or compromised accounts. It sees the bigger picture. This ability to detect deviations and trigger additional authentication or denials prepares you to design integration, selection, and implementation of communication solutions that are truly resilient. To support this effectively, the underlying network requires logical separation of control and data planes, consistent security posture across all infrastructure, continuous asset identification and monitoring, and scalable PEPs acting as the sole access points for resources.
This all sounds incredibly complex and sophisticated. It almost seems like it would only be for huge tech companies or top-secret government agencies. But where do everyday businesses actually use zero trust? What are the real-world applications we might see?
Everywhere. Honestly, especially for today's distributed enterprises, which, let's face it, is most companies now. It's becoming mainstream. This highlights alternatives available in hardware, software, and transmission facilities because ZTA adapts to diverse environments. Consider an enterprise with satellite facilities, remote offices, branches, or a vast teleworker force using enterprise-issued or even personal devices, BYOD. ZTA allows for granular access. An employee might get email access from their personal device but be denied access to a sensitive HR database if that device is deemed less secure or unmanaged. The PE and PA components are often cloud-hosted for better availability and scalability in these scenarios. Then there's the multi-cloud, cloud-to-cloud enterprise. Companies using several cloud providers like AWS, Azure, Google Cloud to host applications and data. Common now, ZT places PPs at the access points of each application service or data source, providing consistent security beyond any single traditional perimeter across all cloud environments. Unified security. For enterprises with contracted services and non-employee access, think about HVAC maintenance techs needing to get on site. ZT lets them have basic internet access, perhaps, while completely obscuring enterprise resources they don't need to see, preventing accidental or malicious access. Limited, specific access. Collaboration across enterprise boundaries, like joint projects between different organizations or government agencies. Federated identity management and ZT can grant secure, granular access without the need for complex VPNs or unwieldy access control lists, ACLs. Makes collaboration easier and safer. Finally, for public or customer-facing services with registered users, customers, employee dependents, etc., ZT policies can enforce stronger password lengths, mandatory MFA, and continuous monitoring for automated attacks, like unusual browser types indicating bots. Even though the enterprise can't directly control the user's devices, the applications are truly vast and growing.
While Zero Trust sounds like the ultimate defense, the silver bullet almost,
Yeah.
what are the potential weak points or threats associated with this architecture? No system is perfect, right? There must be downsides.
No security architecture is without its challenges, you're absolutely right, and ZTA is no exception. We need to be realistic. One significant threat is the subversion of the ZTA decision process. If the policy engine or policy administrator is misconfigured or, worse, compromised by an insider threat, it could grant unauthorized access or disrupt critical operations. Compromise the brain, and you're in trouble. Denial of service, DOS, or network disruption is another concern. If PPs, or the central PIPA, become inaccessible, it directly impacts the ability to perform work. So resilience planning and redundancy are absolutely critical. You need backups. Even with ZTA, stolen credentials insider threats remain a persistent risk. ZTA limits lateral movement after a compromise, yes, but valid credentials still grant authorized access to specific resources. However, this is where those contextual trust algorithms prove invaluable in detecting deviations from normal behavior, adding a layer of protection. Visibility on the network can also be an issue, interestingly. Encrypted traffic, especially at layer 3, can be opaque to traditional inspection tools. This requires more advanced metadata analysis and machine learning techniques to detect threats hiding within that encrypted stream. The storage of system and network information, such as logs and access policies, becomes an incredibly valuable target for attackers seeking reconnaissance. So securing these repositories themselves is paramount. Protect the logs. Reliance on proprietary data format solutions from vendors can lead to vendor lock-in and interoperability issues, creating high migration costs if a provider has security issues or if you simply need to switch for business reasons. Lastly, the use of non-person entities, NPEs, like AI agents managing security policies or responding to threats. This introduces new risks of false positives, negatives, or even sophisticated attackers somehow coercing these agents to perform unauthorized tasks. Highlights the need for careful AI governance and security.
So ZTA is definitely a cutting-edge approach, but how does it fit in with existing federal guidance and regulations? This is especially relevant for those students who might end up working in government-facing roles or with federal contractors. Does it play nice with the existing rules?
That's a great question, and the answer is yes. ZTI actually integrates incredibly well with many existing federal frameworks, and in some cases, it's even becoming a mandated direction, like through recent executive orders. For instance, the NIST Risk Management Framework, RMF, is significantly complemented by ZTA's focus on developing granular access policies around acceptable risk levels. They fit together nicely. The NIST privacy framework helps organizations address the privacy concerns that inevitably arise from ZTA's inherent need to inspect and log traffic more deeply. It requires careful identification and mitigation of risks, like informing users clearly and obtaining consent where needed. Federal identity, credential, and access management, PICM principles, emphasizing strong identity provisioning and authentication, are absolutely foundational for ZTA's Verify Everything mantra. Trusted Internet Connections, TIC 3.0, has evolved significantly from its original perimeter-based model to accommodate cloud and mobile realities, and it directly supports ZTA principles like strong authentication and microsegmentation. These examples demonstrate ZTA's broad applicability and its crucial role in modern cybersecurity across various sectors, including regulated ones.
Zero trust sounds like a massive undertaking, though. A complete overhaul of how security has been done for decades. Can a business just flip a switch and become zero trust overnight? Or is it more like a long strategic journey to implement?
It's absolutely a journey, not a single replacement event. No flipping a switch here. Most organizations will initially operate in a hybrid mode, with both zero trust principles and traditional perimeter-based security coexisting and complementing each other. Phased approach. This incremental implementation requires detailed, meticulous knowledge of your assets, your users, subjects, your critical business processes, and all your data flows. You need deep visibility first. The migration process typically involves several key methodical steps. First, identifying all actors, both human users and non-person entities like automated services, and understanding their privileges, who needs access to what. Second, identifying all assets owned by the enterprise, including hardware, software, and even shadow IT that might be lurking. What are we protecting? Third, identifying key business processes and evaluating the risks associated with them. Often starting with lower risk processes or those in cloud remote work scenarios as good candidates for initial CTA deployment. Start small, prove value. Fourth, formulating dynamic policies for the ZTA candidate, which is an iterative process involving tuning and refinement. Fifth, identifying suitable technological solutions, agents, gateways, cloud services that fit your ecosystem and requirements. Sixth, an initial deployment and monitoring phase, often in a reporting-only or audit mode first, to establish baselines and identify potential issues without breaking things. And finally, seventh, expanding the ZTA gradually to cover more business processes as confidence is gained and the architecture matures over time. It's iterative.
So, what's the ultimate practical takeaway for our business students regarding this monumental shift to zero trust? What should they really remember?
The undeniable practical takeaway is that zero trust is the future of network security. It's already here and rapidly expanding across all industries. Understanding its core principles, its logical components, and how to methodically implement it will be absolutely critical. For managing enterprise risk effectively, ensuring compliance in an increasingly regulated world, and securely supporting modern distributed workforces. This directly relates to the course's focus on the current and future impact and direction of these technologies, and the skill outcome of designing a logical network design for a given set of requirements. It empowers you to build security from the inside out, making you an invaluable asset in any organization you join. It's a paradigm shift they need to understand.
Zero trust is clearly powerful, a huge step forward. But is it part of an even bigger picture? Is there a broader vision for how security and networking should integrate in our cloud-first, work-from-anywhere world?
Yes, if we connect this to the even bigger picture, zero trust is a key foundational component of SaaS Secure Access Service Edge. You might be hearing this term more now. Developed by Gartner back in 2019, SaaS isn't just a product either. It's a theoretical but rapidly being implemented model. It merges software-defined networking, SDN, core security principles like zero trust, and various network services into a single, cohesive, cloud-native framework. It's really all about providing seamless, secure access from anywhere, anytime to any application or data, regardless of location. This is crucial for design integration, selection, and implementation of communication solutions, as it's the model most modern agile businesses are rapidly moving towards for their next-generation networks. It's the conversions.
What are the core components that make up this comprehensive SaaS framework? It sounds like a lot of different pieces coming together under one umbrella.
ASI brings together several critical cloud-delivered elements into one integrated service. At its core is the Security Service Edge, SSE, which is the dedicated security side of the CES framework, handles the security functions. Within CES, Zero Trust Network Access, ZTNA, as we discuss, effectively replaces traditional, often cumbersome VPNs, providing granular, context-aware access directly to applications and data, not just broad network access, much more precise. You also have a Cloud Access Security Broker, CASB, which enforces security policies specifically for all your cloud services like Salesforce, Office 365, Workday. Firewall as a Service, FYS, delivers cloud-delivered firewall capabilities, eliminating the need for physical firewall appliances at every branch office or location. Centralized policy. And Secure Web Gateway, SWG, filters risky or unauthorized web traffic using URL and content filtering to protect users from malicious sites and prevent data exfiltration. Protects users browsing the web. All these components were integrated and delivered as a service from the cloud, simplifying management and ensuring consistent policy.
I've also heard the term branch office of one, sometimes used in relation to SaaSes and ZTNA. What exactly does that mean, and why is it so relevant for today's workforce?
That's a perfect way to describe SASE's profound impact on modern work, really captures the essence. It essentially means applying ZTNA principles consistently to all users, regardless of their physical location. Treating every remote worker, every mobile user, as if they are their own secure branch office. This ensures consistent security posture, consistent policy enforcement, and optimal performance for every individual. No matter where they're connecting from or what device they happen to be using at that moment, it democratizes secure access and makes the concept of a fixed office perimeter increasingly irrelevant, almost obsolete.
This really sounds like the ultimate modern solution for business security and networking, especially with so many distributed workforces these days. What's the key takeaway for our students from this expansive SASE framework? What should they keep in mind?
SaaS offers a comprehensive, cloud-native approach to cybersecurity and networking that is absolutely essential for modern, agile businesses with distributed workforces. It's the direction things are heading. It fundamentally simplifies security management by consolidating multiple point products. It consolidates network functions. And crucially, it ensures consistent policy enforcement across all users and resources, regardless of their location. Huge benefit. This directly addresses the design, integration, selection, and implementation of communications solutions aspects of the course. Understanding SaaS helps you strategically select appropriate wired, wireless, and optical fiber networking components for a given set of requirements, and configure network connections, services, security, and management because it provides the overarching, future-proof architecture for securing today's complex, borderless networks. It's the big picture framework. Hashtag outro.
Wow, what an incredible journey through the essential world of access control. That was a lot to cover. We started right at the foundations with critical security policies and vital physical safeguards. Can't forget those. We then journeyed through the absolutely critical AAA framework authentication, authorization, and accounting. Got 3 A's down. We even did a deep dive into the absolute necessity of multi-factor authentication in our current threat landscape. So important. And we wrapped it all up with the game-changing paradigm shifts of zero-trust security and the encompassing cloud-native framework of SaaS. We truly highlighted how data communications concepts are not just technical details, but deeply strategic and fundamental for any organization striving for resilience and growth today.
Indeed. Remember our opening thought about those wide-open digital doors. This deep dive has meticulously shown you the sophisticated multi-layered locks, the advanced alarms, and the vigilant patrol systems that modern data communications experts build and manage today. It's no longer about a single strong castle wall. It's about continuously verifying every single interaction, every device, every user, everywhere, all the time. Constant vigilance. This ensures that while everything is interconnected, only authorized connections are truly granted access, relentlessly protecting the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of your business and personal data. That's the goal.
And for you, our BCIS 1,347 students listening today at the Dr. Sam Pack College of Business. Understanding these concepts is truly more than just passing an exam. It really is. It's about building a robust, future-proof skill set that will make you indispensable in the job market. These are the precise tools you'll use to design secure networks, formulate and mitigate complex risks, and become invaluable assets in any organization you join. You're not just learning about technology, you're learning how to strategically safeguard the digital economy itself. That's powerful. So keep learning, keep growing, and keep pushing for that bright future. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please take just a moment to like this episode, subscribe to the deep dive, and share it with someone who needs these critical insights. And don't forget to check the description for even more resources to fuel your learning journey.
So as you navigate your increasingly connected world, maybe consider this question. Where in your daily digital life, or perhaps in a business you admire or work for, could a stronger, more intelligent access control strategy make all the difference? Food for thought. Remember, strong connections aren't just technical, they're strategic. Until next time, keep your packets clean and your networks resilient.